Andy, welcome to Cork City, the real capital of Ireland. How does it feel to be here?
It's great to be in your home, the King of Cork. I've
Yes.
joined you in your palace. It's great to be here. Lovely place. People are looking at me with pity because England aren't very good at the minute. But let's talk about Ireland. What will it mean to go back-to-back Grand Slams? Will it be the hangover of the World Cup is gone and that's in the history?
Yeah, I think so. I think it would be a historic feat for us to achieve that. I think we're playing really nice rugby at the moment. We've been convincing in all our games. Not the greatest performance against Wales that we've been used to, but we're obviously moving in the right direction. Odds-on favourites for the Grand Slam. So a big one this weekend. Going to Twickenham's never easy, but you'd have to fancy us the way we're playing at the moment. And England's form hasn't been too great, so I'd certainly fancy us. How do you think?
I don't know. I think we've got something in this. Listen, Ireland have been phenomenal over the last couple of years in this tournament, and then obviously the big build-up to the World Cup, and came up short in that quarter-final, but it was an amazing game, wasn't it? And they've kind of kicked on again, I think. First half against Wales, they were pretty good, should have been more ahead, and then second half Wales come back. But I don't know. People started talking about a bit of confidence and maybe overconfidence in the Ireland team, and that's the crumbs of comfort that I'm trying to hold on to as an Englishman, because I see Ireland coming to Twickenham and winning pretty convincingly. The way they're playing, it's been seamless with Sexton moving out, retiring. Crowley's been brilliant in that position at 10, hasn't he? And you come in fully loaded with all your players, fully fit, except for you.
The only omission, yes, obviously. But yeah, I completely agree with you. I think it's an incredibly dangerous place to go when you're such big favourites for the game. And it's going to be vital in terms of the Grand Slam for us. But Twickenham historically has been tough for us. But you just can't deny our form, the way we're playing. Everybody seems to be, singing from the same hymn sheet, and it's obviously going to be an incredible match, but I just do fancy us to be too strong on the day. So yeah, can't wait.
It's comfortable, isn't it, for Ireland? Everyone knows how to play. You've got your ball receivers, you guys out the back, and everyone seems to understand the structure really well. Whoever comes in, comes out. Obviously, Ringrose missed the last game. Everyone looks comfy and understanding how they could play, whereas you compare that to England, and we look lost.
Absolutely. There's no dip off at all when other people move in and out of the team. The most impressive thing probably for me, funnily enough, has been the speed of our ruck and the accuracy around our ruck. Just not allowing big teams, big poaching teams like the French to get any joy on the ground, and just creating that fast game and making ourselves so hard to deal with. That phase play rugby is just so hard to stop. I think it's the intent that we're playing with, the positive style, the positive brand that we're trying to play. And we just look like an incredibly efficient, well-oiled team at the moment. And shame we didn't get it in the World Cup in that game, but what a game it was. And if you're going to lose to a team in New Zealand, then so be it. But yeah, we haven't pressed pause. It's gone full on the accelerator, and we're playing really nice again. And yeah, let's see how it takes us in Twickenham.
Congrats, guaranteed Grand Slam.
Guaranteed, yes, thank you. So, Andy, I saw you were quite critical of England's last performance against Scotland. You wanted a few heads to roll. But could you, delve into a bit more detail around your thoughts?
Yeah, I was a bit frustrated, I'm not going to lie. Our performance against Scotland, we started well in the first 15 minutes, and then we just disappeared. There was no leadership. There was no structure to our game plan, and you're comparing us to Ireland, where everyone knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
And I sat there and I thought, you know what? We've moved on from a World Cup now, and Steve had his way of getting as far as he could in that tournament, and England were boring at the World Cup, right? How we played, but we got to third in the world. And then we go to a Six Nations, and over the last 4 or 5 Six Nations, we've beaten Wales, and we've beaten Italy, beaten no one else. We struggled against Ireland, struggled against France, and we keep losing to Scotland, which never happened in my day. So there was a few beers involved in this tweet, but we've sat there now, and you talk about a 4-year cycle and evolution of a team. We've got guys that are 37. They're not going to the next World Cup. There's a couple of props in there. There's other players that have got a load of caps, but they're not necessarily being picked on form. They're being picked on experience. But when you're not showing that leadership on the field, what's the point of having them? From my perspective, it's we need to move on from these guys and not wait for them to tell us they're going to retire from international rugby. So I was very disappointed how England played. It looks like Felix Jones has come in, and we can see how we're trying to defend, and you can see a clear identity to that.
Yeah.
I can't see how we're trying to attack. You know, we're going one out runners and they're just getting smashed, and then we look lost, so we kick it. And that's not how rugby is played at the minute. You know, and so frustratingly for me, we seem to have lost an identity of what we're about. At least at the World Cup, we knew we had an identity of we're going to play this way. It's boring, but it's going to be effective. And it nearly got us to a World Cup final. But then the evolution, they're talking about evolution within the camp, and Steve Borthwick talking about that. I don't know. It's we're in a tough spot now, and you know we've got exciting young players. We're not marrying up how a team wants to play with the players that he's got, and so sometimes you just need to get the broom out and sweep away all the old boys.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's if we're trying to build for the next few years, I think we need to see, you know, the likes of Marcus Smith at 10, not George Ford. You know, some of the young props that we've got. You know, Joe Hayes at tight head prop potentially. Will Stewart, these guys, not Dan Cole. Dan Cole's 37. He's been a brilliant servant, but we're just waiting for him to say, I've had enough now. So it's talking about evolution and building an attacking game. And I'd had a few beers, yeah, but I was hurt. I was hurt.
But to be fair to you, I completely see where you're coming from. If there was, in my opinion, if there was a Six Nations to blood through the talent, it's the one immediately after the World Cup. Yeah, it's disappointing not to see some younger faces in their squad or go out with more of a positive attacking mindset. They seem to have just kind of fed on from the World Cup in that similar vein of, you know, stringing together half decent performances for drips and drabs in periods of games. So it's not been impressive, and that's why I, as an Irishman, have so much confidence going into this weekend. But from an English point of view, I can see where the critical mindset has come from.
And it's frustrating. Like you look at, he has done it with some players. So Tommy Freeman, on the wing, he's been tearing up trees in the Premiership, and you might find out about him in the Investec Champions Cup.
Yes, I did, unfortunately.
In a few weeks as well. But you know, look at Emmanuel Fail-Boso on the wing. He got 10 minutes against Scotland. And every time he touched the ball, in those 10 minutes, 3 or 4 times, he scores a try. He's electric, he's breaking tackles, he's making meters after contact. And he's having a crack, whereas you look at some of the other players and they're dilly-dally and don't know what to do. So I hope we see Fail-Boso start against Ireland. His massive point of difference in sort of his excitement, his physicality, his ability to make meters. And the bottom line is to beat Ireland. That's what we've got to do. You've got to make meters after contact. And England need to evolve, and hopefully, after losing to Scotland, it is a reset button. And we can take it to Ireland on Saturday. Yeah,
I certainly agree. And I'd like to see the 10 jumper change a bit. Having played against Tommy Freeman's buddy Finsmith in the Champions Cup, he was incredible. Very difficult to read what he's doing in attack. He picks up nice positions in the pocket and suddenly accelerates into attacking positions. He seems to have his head screwed on. You'd like to see someone like him, and Marcus as well, who's been consistently excellent for a long time now, just given the keys and just say, you know, this is you two now leading us into the next World Cup. I think that would be very exciting. But as I said, Ireland by 40.
So Zeebs, Ireland come to Twickenham. How difficult is it a place to come to? Because in fairness, in the stands, there'll probably be more Irish fans than English fans, will there?
Yeah, probably this time round, yes, I'd imagine so. Especially the way England are going. But for me, traditionally, it's been an incredibly tough place to go. The atmosphere has been incredibly hostile, and just in the past, England would get the ball rolling. They'd get that momentum, that 20-minute spell where, you know, the crowd's behind them and they're incredibly difficult to stop. And you could just feel all the noise drowning you out, and, you know, talking to your teammates was incredibly difficult, communication, everything. So it can be an incredibly daunting place to go and play rugby, but this current squad have much different experiences of going to Twickenham. I think they'll have that real confidence in their belief, and some of the results that they've picked up on the road in France to open the tournament, incredibly hostile environment as well. They stick together, they're incredibly calm. You know, series wins in New Zealand. So Ireland are used to going on the road and winning incredibly tough games. In the past, I think it might have been a bit harder going to Twickenham when they really had an identity and they were really difficult to stop. But I don't think this atmosphere now this weekend should unsettle this Irish team.
Did you win there?
I didn't, no, unfortunately. You were still playing probably, you bastard.
So last time we chatted, Zeebs, we talked about some of the new faces coming into the Ireland squad. Crowley's been immense at 10. We've seen Nash on the wing in your spot going well. Frawley played fullback, and Big Joe McCarthy How do you think these new guys have gone and settled into this Ireland team?
Yeah, I think they've gone really well. I think Jack, I start with Jack. I think his calmness, his skill set is incredibly good. I think he offers a lot in that 10 jersey, probably a little bit more attack or attacking the line ability than maybe Johnny, but he's it's been a seamless transition, and obviously you have Calvin on the wing who's been potent, scoring a couple of tries. But I think a game like this now at the weekend, he'll be licking his lips, the opportunity of getting his hands on the ball a little bit more. And obviously Big Joe in the second row, who's been formidable, being a nuisance as best he can. He's an incredible player. He's hugely physical. But just it's a testament to the squad and the ability to move parts in and out, move players, change them out of position. Kieran Frawley can play 10, 12, 13, and he plays an international, his first Six Nations start at fullback, and goes really well. So I think that's just testament to the strength and depth in our squad, and how Andy Farrell has us going at the moment is really, really good. So
nice. And talking about Joe McCarthy, that physicality and that battle that he's going to have, him against Maro Toji is going to be mouth-watering, and they're going to go after Maro, aren't they?
Big time, yeah. And Big Joe, no better boy to do it, and that physicality, that was always the number one talking point when going to England, going to Twickenham, is to stun them with the physicality and, match them and go beyond. So, it'll be leaders in the pack like your Peter O'Mahony's, your Big Joes, Tyke Furlongs, these guys who are going to stamp their authority by being incredibly physical should start us off really well and going towards a victory, hopefully.
So, Zeebs, we've seen a bit of drama around the Six Nations. Last minute, no try decisions. Your mate Finn up in Scotland. Talk me about through that. You're playing the game now. Scotland, France, that last play of the game, was it a try?
I would say it was a try, yeah. I'd say there was enough evidence to award the try. It's an incredibly tough decision at the time. It is tight, and you just probably think that the referee should have had a little bit more help from the TMO, maybe. But look, that's part of the game. You think the coaching staff of Scotland or the players wouldn't, want to rely on that moment to win the game. It's always tough when you leave the decisions in refs and TMO's hands. So I think they'll look at their performance for the full 80 as opposed to just that last moment, and they'll be disappointed in that. But incredibly tough decisions, and it's the difference between being on for a Grand Slam and not, or finishing second or third potentially. So it's a tough one for our Scottish friends, but these things happen, I suppose. So yeah, someone's head somewhere will roll. But yeah.
And talking about France, you've obviously played in France for a number of years. You've got mates still in that international team. What's going on? They looked so good a year ago, and now they look like they don't even know each other.
Correct. It seems like it's a bit of a tough period for them, obviously. But that World Cup, they put so much into that World Cup. Emotionally, it's very hard to then get back up for the following Six Nations after that home World Cup opportunity. Everybody thought, this was Dupont leading the French to a home World Cup success, their first ever, but, it came crashing down, and, you can see now that they need to rebuild the house from the bottom to top and give the next World Cup a crack. But as of now, immediately, they're not playing the typical French brand that we're used to seeing. There doesn't seem to be any cohesion or, that dominant physicality that we're used to. The atmospheres have been a bit off. They haven't seemed like the connection with the supporters and this team is there as much as it has been in the past. So definitely a big rebuild for them, and you hopefully see some new faces in the mix in the coming weeks.
You mentioned Dupont. Now, obviously, he's gone off to play sevens, which he won his first tournament of the weekend.
I think there's definitely more issues than what just meets the eye. I think there is some deeper issues there. But having said that, the impact that someone like him has, they even just in the sevens alone, they've been 19 odd years without a trophy, and he comes back in his first year and they win, which is huge. I think the impact he has on the players around him is that great that potentially one or two of the results could have been a bit different. But also a potentially underrated guy in that French system is definitely Romain Ntamack. He knows how the players around him operate, knows when to distribute, when not to, knows when to go, and he's a huge cog in that wheel. And, throwing Mathieu Jalibert in there, he's playing a certain way with Bordeaux, and that French team doesn't seem to be playing on the same wavelength, and it just doesn't seem right at the moment. That natural fit or swap into that 10 shirt hasn't been seamless, and they're struggling big time. So when you take those two really important halfbacks out of a team, it's going to have a big impact. So yeah, they've been very underwhelming. So yeah, it could be a mediocre tournament for them, and hopefully you'd see the momentum come back post Six Nations. So Andy, tell me what you think about Italy, how they've been going in the tournament.
Yeah, I mean, they've improved, I think.
Yeah.
You know, the World Cup was really poor for them. Obviously took a massive defeat to New Zealand and to France. Changed their coach, Gonzalo Quesada's come in, and he's changed a few things, put a bit more structure to them, but still trying to emphasise playing with the ball as well. Really like Mencello in the backs, Brex in the centres played really well. They've got some big ball carriers up front, and they were massively unlucky to not beat the French, weren't they? The ball slips off the tee. Garbisi's kicked everything all day until that final moment. There was chat of players charging the penalty, which you can't do, but it was just a really unfortunate circumstance. The roof's closed, the ball, however he put the ball on the tee, it just slipped off at the wrong moment, and then he hits the post. And heartbreaking for the Italians. They've never beaten France in the Six Nations, but you're seeing good signs of progress. They play Scotland this weekend. They could do a job there at home, and then they go to Wales last round, where they won 2 years ago for the wooden spoon battle. So for me, you know, there is signs of improvement there. I think Kieran Crowley did a really good job up until the World Cup, and then they announced that they were making the coaching change, and it went to pot at the World Cup with a ridiculously tough group. But we're seeing signs of great development from some of the younger players there coming through, and you know, the likes of Lamaro and Seb Negri and these sort of guys, you know, who have been there for a long time. They're now comfortable in that environment and playing a decent brand of rugby. And hopefully they can do a job on Scotland this weekend.
Yeah. Your old team, Leicester Tigers, are travelling to Leinster, to the Aviva Stadium.
Easy win.
Yeah, but a cauldron of an atmosphere. But what do you think? How do you think that game will go?
Yeah, I mean, listen, everyone's going to be back in Leinster outside of the Leicester camp itself. They'll believe they can go there and win, because you have to, right? Yeah. You know, Leinster have been a phenomenal team now until they get to the final over the last few years. And at the Aviva, their record speaks for itself, apart from the final against La Rochelle. But, you know, this Leicester team, they played in the group stage, and Leicester started the game really well, got into a lead, found some short sides to attack down where Leinster was short of players. And a bit of a weakness there, and you know, there was a few refereeing calls I think that went in Leinster's favour against Leicester. There was a try Joe McCarthy scored, I think, that was definitely a double movement. But Leinster showed their quality that day, you know, and pushed through on in the second half, and the power that they had, and you know, all the internationals that played, the cohesion came back there. So it'll be a tough day for Leicester, and let's not forget they went there last year in the knockouts and took a bit of a hiding as well. Yeah. So that'll be fresh in the memory. But you know, there is world-class players in this Leicester team. You know, Ben Youngs is still top of his game. You've got Andre Pollard at 10, you know, Freddie Stewart at fullback, Dan Cole at prop. So that there are a lot of international class players that, you know, will fancy themselves going up against a Leinster team who, you know, have had things go their way a lot of the time until they get to finals. At some point, they've got to lose a knockout game somewhere else other than the final, or they'll believe that they can go on and win it. But it will be very tough. You know, my heart obviously wants Leicester to win, but my head's saying Leinster will win this by about 12 points and probably continue on their march to try and reclaim the trophy that they've not managed to win for the last few years.